listening to The Donor Doctor Show, where your host, James Newberry, will help you improve the health of your fundraising. Now over to James.
Hello, this is The Donor Doctor, and I'm here with Gary Henriksen of Five Maples. Say hi, Gary.
Hi, how you doing, Jim?
I'm doing well. Now, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I started out as an engineer in Silicon Valley, and I've got a long history of industrial marketing in the primarily in the pharmaceutical and biotech industries. And about 10 years ago, I switched to owning a direct mail firm, and we have turned ourselves into a fundraising agency with production capability. So that's what I'm really focused on right now, and really enjoying it. There's a lot of opportunity, and so things are working out well.
One of the things in your bio I found interesting is that you were in charge of a $10 million capital campaign for a YMCA. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I was still in the biotech industry at that time, and was running a company in a New England town, and got involved with the Y, and ended up as the board chair. And the Y was old and tired, and even board members didn't want to go there. So we felt it was time for a new facility, and we hired a campaign council and went out and raised about $10.5 million and built a $14 million facility. It took us 5 years to do all of that, and it was an incredible learning experience, and got me really, it was my first real in-depth experience with fundraising, although, I'd been associated with it with some nonprofits in a small way previously, and I got pretty excited about it, and that's one of the reasons why I decided I wanted to, really focus my direct mail company on fundraising, because, you get that sense of mission and really like working with the people who are in that business, and direct mail really works for it as well.
What I've noticed about Five Maples is you have a lot of smaller clients. I mean, you have bigger clients. You do everything from Bernie Sanders to Biblical Archaeology Society.
Yes, that's right. Turns out they're actually pretty large, a couple 100,000 subscribers.
Oh, that is very.
Oh yeah, deep. They are a very strong online presence as well, besides the magazine, and they are a nonprofit. And they do raise a lot of money through direct response as well as subscriptions. So, yeah, it's a really cool organization.
Well, you have a lot of smaller ones, though, is what I'm saying, like little local humane societies, hospitals, things like that, right?
Yeah, community hospitals, independent schools, Meals on Wheels, visiting nurse associations. And here's the deal, Jim. There's well over 1 million nonprofits in the U.S., and I estimate that 200 to 300,000 of them have budgets for fundraising, for direct response fundraising and newsletters and that kind of thing, as well as online, of between $10,000 and $100,000. So, from a public point of view, there's a lot of focus on the really big nonprofits like American Cancer Society and Nature Conservancy and all that kind of stuff. But let's face it, there aren't very many of those in the country, and most nonprofits have much smaller budgets and small staffs, maybe 1, 2, 3 people in their fundraising department, and even sometimes just an executive director that has to spend half time. So that's where the bulk of the fundraising is done, where the bulk of the fundraising professionals are working. And then below those 200,000 to 300,000, there's another, 800,000 or 1 million nonprofits that are even smaller than that and really are doing very little fundraising. So most, as a fundraising agency, most of our clients and most of the opportunity is in that budget of 10,000 to 100,000 with 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 professionals, and they don't have the time or the expertise to really understand and manage how to do a great job on direct response fundraising. So, yeah, that is where we spend most of our time, even though we have these larger clients, including Ivy League schools as clients. But, they don't really need a lot of help because they've got 60 staff members, and they've been, doing it for decades. So the people that we spend most of our time helping are places that just don't have the staff.
Yeah, and they have turnover too because they don't pay well often.
Oh, the turnover is incredible in the fundraising business, and it feels like it's an average of 2 years in a position. And I think one of the big problems is they pay modestly, but they expect each staff member to do the job of 3 people,
right.
And so the pressure is really high, and as a result, people are frequently changing jobs.
Well, I came across your blog the other day. I'm writing a book, and I found you. I'm interested in neuroscience. I also had coffee the other day with a young man who's, I think, a very talented copywriter, very versatile. And he was saying, well, I don't know if I should stay in this business. It won't be around in 20 years or whatever time frame he was saying. I've heard this for 25 years. I mean, it's in some ways, direct mail is a little bit stronger now because telemarketing has been hurt, and email open rates are going down. Now, you said your article talks about how neuroscience reveals why direct mail raises more money than digital. It's around 10-1. Obviously, Bernie Sanders would be a huge exception. Disaster relief's an exception. There are exceptions, but it's still around 10-1 direct mail to email, right?
Yeah, and I would say for regional organizations or local organizations like your local hospital, that's more like 20-1 or 50-1. And so very little money is coming in through direct mail to your small organizations. By the way, according to Giving USA, in the next 20 years, $1 trillion is going to be donated by baby boomers as they retire and as they die and through plan giving. So there's a huge opportunity for people who want to move into fundraising as a career, and more schools are offering that as a concentration or even a degree or advanced degree. There's a big need for professionals, let me tell you.
I agree.
And, yeah. So yes, that is a fact. In fact, I was just today was updating one of my blogs on response rates for email, and this would be M+R, which is an agency, a big agency in Chicago, and they work with the Nonprofit Technology Network. And in order to produce a study every year on response rates, and they've reported that the already terrible response rates to fundraising email on average of all of the organizations that they get data from has dropped from 0.08% to 0.05% between 2015 and 2016. Now, what is 0.05%? That means you have to send 2,000 emails in order to get one gift.
Wow.
And so that's a problem. And what's going on is that the inbox has become so crowded, and Target Analytics was reporting, or maybe it was MTN study was reporting that the average large nonprofit is sending out 56 emails per donor on average during the year. So, people, we all have overcrowded inboxes. People are not reading all of those things. They're just going straight to, a folder that says, we'll read someday. So it is becoming harder and harder to get attention, and yet the number of emails and social media posts and everything that people are sending has increased a lot. So while the amount of money coming in from digital communications, and particularly email, has grown, it's because so many more messages are going out, but the response rate is going down. There are some, reasons why direct mail is still around, and in fact, this is to me another exciting result, which has been reported this year. The Direct Marketing Association does a study every year, publishes response rates by different channels, and they have reported that response rates for direct mail went up significantly in 2016 and are now at their highest rates since 2003. And so that's really interesting, and we certainly are seeing that all age groups for our customers are responding to direct mail. And I think there's a couple of reasons. One is we'll get back to neuroscience in a second here, but that's part of it. The other is the inbox is less crowded.
Oh, there's less mail.
Yeah, there's less mail now, so mail, when the mail does go out, gets more attention.
Not just direct mail fundraising, there's less catalogs and things like that to compete with your time. You're just getting less mail.
Yeah, that's right. Well, also, we do work for for-profits as well, and one thing that we noticed is kind of advertising mail that is what you might call high involvement or high impact because of the nature of what's being sold has not dropped. Let's take, for instance, we have a number of clients that are high-end travel agencies. So if you really want to communicate that experience of, let's say, being on a cruise ship on the Danube, or, going to the Ivory Coast with a professor or something like that, they are still sending out brochures and catalogs at the same rates that they were 20 years ago, because people like to pick these things up and leaf through them and think about them and touch them. And that kind of gets back to the neuroscience, which, we report on our website and a blog, and, where we have links to various studies. But those studies show that print, something that you physically hold because it has more tactile impact, has greater recall, is more motivating, readers spend a lot more time with print than they do with a digital message. So the engagement and emotional intensity, these have all been measured in studies done by university researchers in the last several years, which just show that print has more engagement value.
It also has more believability, they say. People trust it more. They think it's less likely that you'll be lying in print. Isn't that right?
You are right about that. And so it certainly doesn't suffer, from the fear that people have of being scammed now through cybercrime. So, so of course it's far less expensive and far easier to just whip an email out there. And so it feels like you're accomplishing something. Well, we think email is still important. We write a lot of emails for our clients, but we write them as a coordinated effort with the direct mail so that, there's this multi-channel interaction, which actually does, in our view, and is this supported by some studies, produces a better result when you're using both channels.
Yeah, the way you do it, you describe it, you kind of to use a drinking metaphor, you use an email like as a chaser, to kind of tease for the direct mail. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we recommend trying to get an email in people's inboxes a week or 2 weeks after they get the direct mail piece. And, our clients see higher opening rates than the national averages for marketers and for large nonprofits. Some of our community hospitals see opening rates of 30% on the solicitation emails they send out. But their donors don't actually respond through clicking through and giving on the website. It's taken as an encouragement to, I've still got that direct mail piece, the reply envelope and reply card sitting on my kitchen table, I'll do something about it this weekend. And so that's kind of what we view as the main purpose of those emails. We hope that they click through and give an online donation, but we also hope that it motivates them to action, which is why we say we'll send a couple of them 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after.
I have a friend who's a development director for a charity around 15 to 20 million. And he says he sends 15 what you call value, kind of interest emails. that have soft ask or no ask, actually, for every one that's a hard ask. Do you kind of have that ratio, or what are your ratios? Sometimes you got to give value, something of interest to people. You don't necessarily have to ask every time. Is that your thoughts, or?
Well, going back to the fact that most of our organizations don't have the staff to be able to have that degree of engagement, that's a lot of emails to have to prepare and send out and coordinate
Sure.
and work with. So you really need to have that level of communications. You need somebody that's full-time dedicated to that. And of those 200, 300,000 nonprofits I mentioned that are, below the bigger ones,
Right.
they don't have the staff member devoted to it. So what we are encouraging people to do is we'd like to see them get a couple of newsletters in the mail, direct mail per year, and then get out every couple of weeks, try to get out a sort of donor impact email, and we encourage, repurposing of content. So if you got a story or something that you used in your direct mail piece, whatever you put in your direct mail newsletter, you can break that up, rewrite it just a little bit, and really kind of work on the subject lines for the email. And then at least maybe you can get out 2, 3, 4 email blasts in between your solicitations. And so even if that's only 10 email blasts a year, it's achievable. And we hope that it's having an effect.
Well, great. I have one last question for you. I've read all your blogs. I'd encourage people to go to is it 5maples.com/blog? Is that the link?
Yeah. That would get.
You have a number of good articles, and there's some other articles written by people on your staff that are pretty good. But I found the one interesting is the article you wrote about postscripts. Because I'm not like what Professor Vogely said, that the 90% go to the end of the letter. If I know who the letter's from, I don't do that. So I think all of us, if we open a letter a weird way, we think everybody's like us. I'm left-handed, so I do a lot of things backwards, and I think other people do, and they don't. But that's right. He said 90% read the PS first. And you mentioned something about Mal Warwick's strategy, which is different. The conventional strategy is you recapsulate what you wrote earlier, your offer, if you will. But Mal Warwick has something that I kind of like is you offer something new, a new benefit. Maybe like if you respond right away, we'll give you a keychain, a fast response bonus, or something different. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think Mel Warwick has a great idea, to give some new piece of information in the PS. It's not always easy to do that, though. So we do certainly say that you want to encapsulate the donor benefit, and that's a word I love. Coming from for-profit marketing, we always talked about what's our value proposition. What's in it for the person that we're sending, if they take action and buy our product, what's in it for them? So, of course, that's what you need to communicate to the donor. What are you going to accomplish emotionally and in the world, and how are you going to feel if you give? And we think that needs to be in the PS along with, another call to action. And I would say besides Professor Vogel, whose, book I've got and have studied with interest, of course, and some of the other gurus who have written, they all do advocate that the PS is important. But even the U.S. Post Office's studies show that, people have a tendency to, they're interested in the mail, they bring the mail home, and they might even be standing over the garbage can, as they read it. And so most people are scanning. If they're supporters and, they're really into your organization, maybe they're going to sit down and read, just start reading from beginning to end. But we feel we have to make the assumption that the majority of the people who open it are going to scan it first, and if they find it's interesting and engaging, going to go back and read the whole thing. So that's where we believe that emboldening is really important. Studies show that people always turn the letter over to see if there's anything on the back side, and they're always looking at who signed this. And besides PSs, we're also finding that digitizing a little note from the signer and putting it there below the PS actually increases response rates. So people are looking there.
You mean like a handwritten note? Something that looks like it's handwritten?
Yeah. Handwritten note. The thing is that digital printing technology has gotten so good that if we do the scan, because we have a high quality scanner and our designers, make it look right, you can't tell that it wasn't written by that person. And it has an effect.
Well, one last, I know I said that earlier, but I followed the Bernie Sanders campaign closely because I thought it was a great kind of grassroots effort. Shows kind of the power of. What did you learn from that? I don't know exactly I know he was a client. Did you work on the campaign or have you worked with him in the past? What did you learn or something from that you didn't know before?
Well, we, worked on a senatorial campaign and is presidential, and we're still working with him. He's still raising money. I think one of the things that it really reinforced with us is that we have this process where in evaluating whether whether rental lists and acquisitions are going to work for you, and we have these 5 tests, as to whether it's going to work for you as a nonprofit. Well, Bernie checks every one of those. In particular, the fact that he is so well known, it's so urgent, so important, and the people that are being mailed to, are so interested that he can write a long, dense, sometimes 4 pages of text, and the response rate will be incredible to that. And I think, one of the things that we learned from that is that long copy works in the right situation.
Right.
And I often have this discussion with clients. They say, well, we've got to keep it to 1 page. Well, without, I try to say it in a way without being, too accusatory, but the problem is your copy's not interesting. And the people you're writing to aren't interested in what you have to say. So maybe we need to work on the copy. Maybe we need to work on the typography and make it a lot more readable. Maybe it's not a question of that people don't read things. Maybe it's just that they don't read your stuff, but they do read Bernie's. And we, have seen for Bernie for acquisition mailings 8% response rates.
Oh wow!
Well, that's just stunning in today's world of direct mail, where you would celebrate a 1% response rate.
Right. Fascinating. Well, I learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners did, and appreciate you coming on there. One more time, it's 5maples.com/blog to read your blogs, or if you're a nonprofit needing services, you should contact, right?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Till next time, this is the Donor Doctor signing off.